Hello and welcome to Jedi Hangout. I am Alfred, your host, and thank you for joining me again. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite topic of all, the music of Star Wars. I'm a composer and a musicologist, and one of my biggest research as a musicologist has been the music of Star Wars. Particularly, I've been doing a lot of research on the music from all episodes of the films in John Williams. I am planning on doing more of them at a later time, but time and everything. But right now I have been doing a lot of research and working on, I have a manuscript for the book on the music of Star Wars. So today we are going to be talking about that. But before we get into it, please go ahead and like this video, press the little like button, and also the subscribe button for future contents. It will help support this channel. It's a brand new channel and I'm still building up on it. So the more I get subscribers, the more I can bring you these videos about my collection, about the toys, about the lore, and of course the music of Star Wars. So I would really appreciate it, and I thank you very much for subscribing and viewing and liking this video. So now that we've gotten that through, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this. Now, in the music in films comes in two different forms. One is the underscore, and the other one is the diegetic, or the source music. I normally call it source music, but both of them are the same thing. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're not going to be talking about the underscore, but the source music, or the diegetic music. And this is the music, not the underscore, the mood that the audience hears, but this is the music that actually the characters in the film hear. It's a part of it. Sometimes the characters perform or sing and stuff like that. That is an element in the soundtrack, as well as the score that has the themes and the character themes and the development and the mood of the film. But this here is actually the music that you hear. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about this for all of the episodes 1 through 9. Now, all of the films do not have source music, but a great majority of them do. And of course, A New Hope has probably the most famous one of all. So let's go ahead and get started with that first one. So let's take a look at the first image here. This here, of course, we all know and love. It's the Cantina Band. Now, the Cantina Band has been iconic in the Star Wars history. Everyone loves the Cantina Band, and it's just been absolutely one of the biggest favorite of them all. And the music that they perform, which is a jazz tune. We're going to be talking about those jazz tunes. Now, when it was first developed, the film, and George Lucas went to John Williams, he said, I want something that's swing. I want something jazzy. So we have jazz music in outer space. So that works, right? Given the fact that we have, what does the music in another galaxy sounds like? It could sound like ours, right? And of course it could sound like jazz music. So this is what ultimately happened. And George Lucas gave an example. Now, in films, directors usually put temp tracks into the film so that the composer knows what exactly the director is looking for. And we'll talk more about temp tracks in a future video. But right now, we'll just talk about the ones here. And in this here, what George Lucas did is he put a cut from a Benny Goodman record called Sing, Sing, Sing. And John Williams, being a jazz trained composer and musician, as well as a classical one, knew exactly what this was, and he knew how to do it because he performed jazz on piano, but he did do a lot of jazz, and he still does actually at the age of 91. And so therefore he was able to give him that mood of the Benny Goodman cut, Sing, Sing, Sing. Now, due to copyright reasons, I cannot put any of this music in my video, but I do have a link in the description below on everything that I'm going to be talking about. And the first link is to Benny Goodman's tune, Sing, Sing, Sing. So listen to that and see and compare it. It really sounds like the Cantina Band tune that we hear in the film. And that's because of he was mimicking it. This is what film composers do. Director says, I want this, and so therefore they give them. They deliver exactly what the director is looking for. So that is what he delivered. Now, there was not just that one tune, but there was a second tune that the Cantina Band played. And the second tune is just called Cantina Band number 2. So it's just called Cantina Band number 1 and Cantina Band number 2. So, no really titles. There was no titles. Even in the scores, that's what they're called. That's what John Williams called them. He did not give any titles at all, and the band did not have a name. And also, on the first available soundtracks, only the first Cantina Band tune was available. The second one was not available yet. Now, I'm saying yet. Now, moving down to the 1990s, when the Expanded Universe was coming around, there was a novel called Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina. And in there was a whole short story about the Cantina Band, and we got to know what their names were. They're called the Modal Nodes. So that's the name of the group, the Modal Nodes, and they play what is called jizz music. That's kind of weird, jizz. I don't like saying that a lot of times because if you look it up in the Urban Dictionary, it has a different connotation. But that is what's in the novel, and that's what it's called. The Modal Nodes plays jizz music. And on top of that, these two tunes finally got names. The Cantina Band number 1 tune, the most famous one of all, is called Mad About You. Yes, Mad About You. So that's what it's called. And the second one also has a name called If I Can Only Let You Go and Cry. Oh, that is such an awesome title. But those are the titles that were given. If you have a chance to read Tales from Mos Eisley's Cantina, they're great stories. And there's a whole story about the entire band and the leader of the band. His name is Phrygian Dawn, and he was like a great businessman too and everything. So really good stories there. And of course, around this time, we were coming closer and closer to the special editions. And as the special editions were coming along, a new release of the soundtracks of the films were released. And these ones were expanded. Literally every single track was available that was not available before. It's a 2-disc set, and it's literally the underscore from the film. Now, the thing is, when we buy the soundtracks, it's not the actual soundtrack from the film. They're like arrangements, because of if you listen to the actual underscore, it'll kind of get boring without the scene because it's catered to the scene. But for the first time, the entire soundtrack was available commercially, and it's still available now as a digital download, and it's a 2-disc set, and this includes both Cantina Band number 1 and Cantina Band number 2. And let's go even further. When the special editions came out, this single came out. This single was released around the time of the special editions, and it's really cool. I have all of these, by the way, and it has both tunes in there. But again, it's called Cantina Band number 1 and Cantina Band number 2. It doesn't have those titles. They just did not release it that way back in those days. Only in that one novel. But we fans, we got to love him as those titles and the modal notes. And this is kind of nice because you actually have a soundtrack now of, or the singles that you can go buy from the Intergalactic Record Shop or wherever and buy the singles, right? On Mos Eisley, maybe at Mos Espa or something like that. So later on, way later on, only a few years ago, was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I've been there many times. I go there all the time. I love it very much. Is Oga's Cantina. And in Oga's Cantina, we have Rex. Rex from Star Tours left Star Tours and became a DJ. And you can see him there, and he's playing all these tunes, remixes and dance mixes. And This was available, and it still is available as a digital download of all these tunes that are played in the Cantina, and that also includes a remix dance version, like a disco or a dance version of Mad About You, and that is also included in this collection. I have this collection too. It's really cool. It's just like a different rendition of it. So I guess, decades later, they decided to make a remix of it. So that's really cool. So that is the Cantina Band. Now let's move on to not Empire Strikes Back, but now we have to move to the Return of the Jedi. The Empire Strikes Back does not have any source music. Source music is only there when it's needed because of the scene, and therefore there was none. Now, the next one is Return of the Jedi, and Return of the Jedi has another big one. But before we talk about the really big one, let's talk about the very first one. It is called Jabba's Baroque Recital. When we first see Jabba, when C-3PO and R2-D2 first come into the scene, here we have Jabba the Hutt, and when we first see him, the Rebo band is playing a tune. And this tune is called Jabba's Baroque Recital. And it is in the style of Mozart. It sounds like Mozart. It's very, very typical Mozart, actually. John Williams is really good at being able to mimic classical composers, and this here has a really good mimicking of it. It's just called Jabba's Baroque Recital. Just a nice little background music and everything. This was not commercially available back when it was first released in 1983, but in that edition that I talked about, it is available in the Return of the Jedi edition. Each of the films had its own edition. I think I'm going to be talking about this in a future episode, but it's just called the Star Wars Trilogy. There was the this was included with the I believe it's the edition where it was finally widescreen, the widescreen edition. That's what this was released with, just before the THX version, and then ultimately the special editions. So it does have the same cover, so I believe it was around that time. So you can hear the Jabba's Baroque Recital. However, the sheet music is not available. That would be really interesting or awesome for the sheet music to be able to, but the publisher, Bantha Music, that's the name of the publisher under Lucasfilm, has never made it commercially available, which is distributed by Alfred Publishing and Hal Leonard, and now, of course, supervised over Disney. Let's move on to Cy Snoodles and the Rebo Band. This is a big one to talk about. This is the most famous one, where Cy Snoodles is singing lyrics, and the lyrics are in Huttese, and the Huttese language was created by the sound designer of the franchise, Ben Burt. He created the language, and that language was used to creating this song. You can actually look for the lyrics online. It's really cool. I do talk about it in my book too as well, because it's really important, and it's titled Lepti Nek. It's interesting. It's, I think, called I Get Around or something like that. And it was a really cool scene, and I really loved it. It was really exotic, but at the same time not exotic. It was more in the tune of disco. Now, this was coming to the end of the disco era and into more of the pop alternative dance, like Cyndi Lauper was coming around at the time, and that's the style that they were looking for. And the tune was not composed by John Williams himself. It was composed by Joseph Williams, his son. His son is also a composer and musician and has been doing a lot of film music as well. Plus, he plays in a rock band. So he came and he composed the music, which then John Williams orchestrated and arranged for the film. And it was really fit. It just had an exotic sound to it, and I really loved it a lot. And it just made me fall more in love with Return of the Jedi. yeah, I will say the music was very important for me, and it still is very important to me. And Lepti Nek was really, really cool song that was released as a single, and there was an artist at the time that did disco versions of the original Star Wars in 1977 all the way through the Return of the Jedi. His name is, or he goes by the name of Meko, and he also has a disco version of this as well, another totally different rendition. So, and that's actually available as a digital download now these days too, if you look up Meko. But then the special editions came. Now, I like the special editions. There's a lot of great things about the special editions. It did not ruin my childhood. Um, there's people say it ruined their childhood. Another one that was very disturbing is a song was released going, George Lucas raped my childhood. That was very disturbing because of using such harsh terminology and everything. And it didn't ruin my childhood. It just was disappointing. That's all I can say, is that it was replaced by another tune called Jedi Rocks. This song really, it just didn't fit. It was a mixture of both the original scenes as well as the new digital CGI additions to it. I have no problem with the digital enhancements with the dancers and all of the others in there. But if the song was kept the same, I feel like it would have been better with that little, I forgot his name, but that little weird beetle looking guy. Who is he? What is he? I just think that Cy Snoodle should kept the spotlight because she was the singer. And that's the only disappointing thing about this scene. I mean, there's a lot of other things about the special editions I didn't like, but there's a lot of things I absolutely love as well. So it's not that I don't love them or hate them or anything like that. I like watching the special editions a lot. But this scene, when it comes to this scene, it really bothers me. And the song was also not composed by John Williams himself. It was composed by a composer named Jedi Hey. Don't know anything about him, but he was the composer of it. So let's move on to the next part. The Ewoks. Yeah, we had a lot of Ewok source music throughout the whole time. When the gang was being cooked, that we had some background source music of the tribal music that they were playing. But at the end is when it was the biggest one. At the end is the Ewok Celebration. Again, the language was created, and this was composed also by Joseph Williams, orchestrated by John Williams. And this was used, and it gave a great finale, tribally, with all the tribal sounds and everything. And of course, now we have the gang at the very end with Ewok Celebration, and it just really fit really beautifully. Now, in the special editions, it was replaced with what is called Victory Celebration. Victory Celebration is supposed to be for the entire galaxy because of the added scenes. Now, I have no problems with the tune Victory Celebration. It's also composed by John Williams, but it didn't quite fit with the Ewok scenes. It didn't fit with them. It fit with the ambient of everything, but it didn't fit quite with them. I think John Williams did the best he could, given under the circumstances that he was brought back to composing this at a later time now. 1997, 98, so quite a number of years, over 10 years later, he went back and tried to fit a whole new tune. Of course, he's such a master. He does a great job. So the tune itself is really great. It just didn't quite completely fit with the scene. But I don't have much of a problem with that as much as the Jabba the Hutt scene. I really do not like Jedi Rocks. I really don't like it. I really wish Lepti Nek would be there. Maybe Disney might add it in there or something like that, or something. You never know. Hopefully they would. Oh, and also the tune Jedi Rocks was also, and I almost forgot to mention this, was also released as a single as well around the same time as the special editions with the singles for the Cantina Band. So you can actually get a single for that too. And again, I'm going to be talking about that probably at a later time as well. Now, let's go to the prequels. The first one in the prequels. Here we have the scene where Qui-Gon Jinn, Padme, and Jar Jar Binks are in Mos Espa. And if you listen really carefully in Mos Espa, there's some Eastern sounding, Middle Eastern sounding music that is playing. And this is supposed to be a street band, like a street band playing. I don't know if there's a deleted scene, but I think there was a deleted scene. I don't see it at all of the street band, but you do hear it from time to time. You also hear it at Watto's shop when they're in the back. When Qui-Gon Jinn is with him in the back, you hear it back when they're back there. And when it goes back into the shop, you don't hear it. So you definitely know it is source music. It is music that's playing in the background, or in the streets, that people could hear. And again, these were composed, there was 4 of them that were composed by Joseph Williams again. John Williams is really close with this son of his. He has 3 kids, and this one is, followed his footsteps as a composer. They actually all play music. His daughter is actually a therapist by profession, but she is a proficient musician. So you can actually not get this from the actual soundtrack, but at this called the Phantom Menace Ultimate Edition. This here is track by track, the entire underscore available, just like the original trilogy. This was released at the time. This is no longer available. You might be able to find a used copy of it someplace. There's no digital downloads of it or anything, but I was fortunate enough to find a copy when I was doing my research, when I was working with this chapter of my book. So moving on, the end of Phantom Menace. We have Augie's Municipal March Parade. This parade, of course, is at the end where the Gungans and the humans, the Nabooians, are at peace with each other, and there's a parade. And the parade, you hear this marching tune, and then you hear this choir. And the choir is playing this tune or singing this tune. This actually sounds very much like the Emperor's theme. The Emperor's theme and this theme really has absolutely similarities. I looked at both of the sheet music for them, and it's literally the same thing. The only difference is that the Emperor's theme is a minor mode, and this one's in a major mode. And this really makes sense that John Williams added this here because of what's happening here. At the last scene, of course, you do see Palpatine as the senator of Naboo, all nice and happy, part of the heroes and everything, and he's in disguise. So having this theme there in disguise in a happy way kind of makes sense. It's kind of showing that he is the Phantom Menace. So it's a really good addition, even though John Williams has never himself come out and said, yes, it is the Emperor's theme or the Palpatine's theme. It was used under the Phantom Menace, the Shadow. It was used under as his theme as well throughout the Phantom Menace and throughout the prequels. He never came out and said that he did not admit to it, but it's there. It's and I think they asked him many years later. And the thing about is John Williams composes so many scores that he can't remember everything he has composed on everything or single soundtrack. Major things, of course, he does remember, but he composes a lot. So I think he just composed this side around 5 minutes. So moving on, the next one is an Attack of the Clones, Dex's Diner. Dex's Diner has a really cool tune that's playing, a really good background jukebox music that's played in the diner. George Lucas was embodying the 50s diner here. That's pretty obvious because of the fact that he did produce and direct American Graffiti. So he was literally bringing that into the Attack of the Clones by having Dex's Diner. I mean, you walk in there, it feels like you're walking into Arnold's from Happy Days, right? And so you have a jukebox playing this tune. And that is what he was trying to embody in it. And it's done really effectively. It doesn't quite sound like the 1950s music, but it has a little bit of resemblance to it. The link to it is in the descriptions below. So I would like you to enjoy this one as much as I enjoy it too. I really love Dex's Diner. I just wish that Hasbro had created a playset on this. They never did. So let's move on. We have to move on all the way to the sequel trilogy now, because Revenge of the Sith did not have anything source music. Again, it's only if it's needed. The next time is Maz's Castle. That's the next time that we see music that is being heard. And this is played by a group. What was the name of the group again? It's called the Shag Kava Band. Shag Kava and his band. And as you can see in the picture, I don't know which one he is. He's actually someone that J.J. Abrams know. And this here is not composed by John Williams. It's called Jabba Flow. It's about Jabba, and it's in Huttese. Okay, so we have, decades after he died, there's people that still want to sing about him, and this is what the song is. It's called Jabba Flow, and it was composed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is actually not just a director, but he's also a composer and musician, and he composed this tune, as well as another one. It's called, what's that other one called? Dorba Doompa. That's not in the film, but you can actually get a digital download of that one, or it is streaming online. I do have a copy of it from Apple Music, so you can find it. Both of these. Matter of fact, the sheet music's available on these. And this was not very much in the film, but it was just enough there, and you have this really cool new band. And it has kind of like a reggae sound to it, and I really like it a lot. It fit the scene very well. Again, being a musician, I always enjoy these type of scenes with a band and everything. So now we're going to move on to the next one. Is The Last Jedi. The Canto Bight scene. There's a lot of people that really feel like it was not a necessary scene. Some people actually thought it was a good scene. I myself, I'm going to keep out of that. I actually think it is important enough that it's there. But what makes it important to me is that it really goes back to the original Cantina because of the tune used in there. It doesn't have a title, but it resembles very closely in orchestration. It's got a lot of jazz in it, like the Cantina Band. So it really resembles. As a matter of fact, it has a steel drums just like the Cantina Band instrumentation. So it's very close to instrumentation. Now here in this picture, you see the band playing it. This band actually, what are their names? I wrote it down here. Does and his group, and they actually are not seen in the scene. I believe they got cut off from it. I wish they didn't because look how cool they look. But they're the group that plays in the Canto Bight scene, and basically this also has a brief little quote of A Quatro do Brasil. This is it's referencing from a film, from the film Brazil, which has that tune in it from it. So that is quoted in here, as well as a brief piano tune by John Williams that he composed for the film The Long Goodbye. So those are referenced in here along with everything. It's obviously a longer scene, so there's a lot more going on in there. So he's got those little bit of references. There's a link to this on the bottom, so for you to listen to anytime you want to. Now, the one last thing that's a source music is, of course, The Rise of Skywalker. This here is a really cool one. Lido Hey, that's the name called. And Lin-Manuel Miranda and J.J. Abrams themselves wrote the song too. And this was the music for the Festival of the Ancestors, as you can remember in that scene. It's really cool. This is the last really big source music in the film, or in the films that I can find. It's really, really an awesome one because it has a very ethnic sound to it. And I really like it. Being an ethnomusicologist, I always really love these. What's really nice is that they said that they celebrate this Festival of Ancestors every 43 years, and that year marked 43 years of A New Hope. So that was kind of a cool reference there. Now, there's one other one. I haven't really done any much investigation, but there is a little bit of music played when they are at the Oma's place, where C-3PO's was getting, his memory changed or erased in the back. When they first walked in there was some music being played, and this music, once again, is by J.J. Abrams. Actually, I don't know if he wrote it or not, but he performs in it. He performs the music, and as you can see in this picture, this is the bartender or whoever he's supposed to be, because I don't think it's a bar, but I keep reading that it's a bar and he's a bartender. It's a cameo of the great master himself, John Williams. Yeah, John Williams finally got a cameo in Star Wars, and here he has his cameo for the first time in Star Wars, and there's a whole cool YouTube video about this whole cameo. The link is on the bottom. And again, I don't know much about the song in this one. There is no reference to the song anywhere. All I know is that it's just a tiny little reference that I found. And I haven't done much investigation or research on The Rise of Skywalker yet. I just haven't had the time to do it. I know it was released in 2019, but of course the pandemic hit, and then I've been developing my orchestra, so I've really been putting my research aside that I'm going to be coming back around again. And so when I do, I will do a lot more in-depth research on The Rise of Skywalker's music, as well as The Last Jedi. I did do an extensive one of The Force Awakens, but the latter of the two I have not done. But these are the source music from there. There's actually source music in a lot of the other films. Han Solo film Solo has source music too, and there's source music, of course, in the TV shows as well. And I would like to talk about those as well in a future episode. But right now, this is already long as it is. I'm sorry if it got really long. And it's kind of boring because there's no music in the background, but I can't play any of this music because of copyright reasons. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode, because this is always the most exciting one for me when I talk about the music of Star Wars. So if you did enjoy this content today, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, Jedi Hangout, and please like this video, and I will definitely do more music of Star Wars. Please let me know in the comments below if there's anything specifically that you want me to talk about when it comes to the music of Star Wars, if it's any of the 9 films or the standalone films. I definitely will do Rogue One. It's a great film, and the music is superb. But I will definitely talk more about the music. Let me know, give me some suggestions on which film or TV show, and I will dive into it in a future episode. So go ahead, please like it and subscribe, and thank you very much for being here and supporting the channel. And may the Force be with you.